The President of the United States, out at the Points of Light celebration in Texas 2 or 3 weeks ago, went into some length, hitting hard the nail, hitting it, driving it in, that people who serve together, working on the hardest problems, trying to solve problems of great importance and urgency, intensely, they come to know each other in a way that you don't get sitting at a meeting hearing talks, particularly if you're people, scores of you in this room, scores and scores of you in this room could compose a panel talking on this same subject. So all we can do is give our best. Now the torch has been passed to me in the sense that the story you got about the torch of whether it's John Kennedy or Martin Luther King or Robert Kennedy of the 60s, a lot of people have talked about passing that torch on. I think what those of us who were both ignited and then scorched in those turbulent years that began so well, and by the end of the decade, the three people that at that point publicly had meant the most to me, Robert Kennedy, John Kennedy, and Martin Luther King, had been killed. We don't want that torch, such as it is, to be like so many pilot programs in this world. Well, the pilot doesn't do what a pilot in a furnace does, which is to ignite the whole. And the point of Kennedy's story that I've regaled to my colleagues that was so moving to me is that while I was still on his staff before I succumbed to Sergeant Shriver and went over to Africa and Ethiopia and the Peace Corps, it was to take him out to send Peace Corps volunteers in the hundreds off from the Rose Garden. He did it quite a number of times, and twice I was the briefer who took him out. And on one of those occasions, he said to me, you know, someday we're going to take this idea home on a big scale in America. And the Service Nation Coalition was one of many forces, including both candidates in the Democratic primary and both candidates in the presidential race were doing doing a lot to advance this. But the Serve America Act, the Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act, which was bipartisan from its inception with Kennedy and Hatch, bipartisan in its original co-sponsors, Senator McCain and Senator Obama and Hillary Clinton and you name them. Every committee, the ranking Republican and the Democrat that produced that bill in both houses worked together, and they hailed this when it was passed. And we have a president and first lady who are very devoted and dedicated to move it forward. It was in part because of the coalition we were pleased with and inspired us to turn to the service world coalition idea. But we were more than delighted that President Obama, in his joint session of Congress, his first, you might say, his first State of the Union, asked Congress, it was the one bill that he said, I ask you to put it on a fast track and get it on my desk to sign, which he did. And now there's a real invitation to the imagination to fulfill it, with these new resources at home, from 75,000 AmeriCorps members to 250,000, just to name one set of expansion of service. The Volunteers for Prosperity got authorized too in that bill. So we have we're off and running in that. Now, one of the questions put to us to talk about was what role will the institutions of higher education and non-governmental organization play in this movement? And I would like, since the other thing that Kennedy said to me, to after taking out, President Kennedy said after sending off a new group of Peace Corps volunteers was, this will be really serious when it gets to be 100,000 a year, and then in 1 decade there'll be more than 1 million Americans who have had firsthand experience serving and working hard on problems in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and then for the first time we'll have a large constituency for a good foreign policy. And for a long time, the sense of a large-scale national service seemed that we were on the way to seemed in those years a lost opportunity. But in a way, the larger lost opportunity for me is that the Peace Corps, the little Peace Corps that got started, that when Shriver left and others of us in the first batch of organizers left in 1966, was at 16,000, setting for the next year to move on to 25,000, and a goal of 50,000 had been set for a few years. It fell back, thanks to the Vietnam War primarily, to 5,000, inched itself up to, through several administrations, to 7,500. President Bush, after 9/11, asked for it to be doubled, something Clinton had favored too. It's nowhere near moving toward doubling. It's just holding its own so far. And just think if we had had 3 or more million Americans in those years overseas, what it might have been. Now, one of the other specific lost opportunities is the role of colleges and universities and non-governmental organizations. Shriver's report of the task force that the President adopted and sent to Congress said that wherever feasible, the overseas projects of the Peace Corps should be administered through contracts with colleges and universities and other educational institutions. In doing this and being administrators of the Peace Corps overseas as well as trainers of them, it will help American universities to become what the Shriver report said, it is time for them to become truly world universities. Now, the universities have done a lot on their own, but if I were saying what would, the next item of how it should be administered was private agencies such as CARE, the Experiment in International Living, and the American Friends Service Committee, etc., should be. And the third specific thing was volunteers should also be assigned to United Nations technical assistance programs so that there would be some projects. But then it added there will be some projects of such a size and complexity or novelty or urgency which cannot be carried out or carried out well through any of the above channels, in which case it should be directly administered by the Peace Corps. We didn't go that route, as you all know. I would hope, in planning ahead now, the 21st century Peace Corps, with a model that goes beyond the single model of the 50 years of the Peace Corps, whether it's with the Peace Corps or with the other approach of the Global Service Fellowship idea that went through the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, thanks to Senator Feingold particularly. That power of American colleges and universities and existing non-government organizations is a way to bring about the great expansion, the quantum leap in service that the President of the United States has called for. And if you want to know who the actors are, let's remember 2 of the greatest actors whose timing will be their own. But after Cairo, it seems to me we have every reason to expect, and after the major speeches in the campaign, that there will be a proposal for a major initiative coming from the President of the United States in due course. We may speed up that course, but we have a partnership with an administration that is going to want to move and will be open to all the ideas that a group like this, have to offer. Thanks.